Hello and welcome to the final bell, brought to you by Panther Tyres, as we are each and every week. Big thanks to the team at Panther Tyres. This is the official Geelong Cats podcast. We're going to be talking Friday night's game against the Tigers. It was not pretty. It wasn't pretty at all. The Tigers were fantastic. Their pressure was outstanding. Geelong, unfortunately, what was built up as a huge Friday night clash, did not handle it at all. And we can only hope they learn a hell of a lot from it before we hit finals. We'll get to some of your questions a little bit later on, but I am joined by the two gentlemen that I am each week, Scotty Gullan and Mathew Stokes. Hello, Scotland. Hello, Stokesy.
Hello, Cameron.
Stokesy, how are you? What were your first reactions on Friday night? I'm sure you were sitting back with a nice cold drink of some variety, just ready for some exciting Friday night footy, big clash, and it went a little pear-shaped.
I did go a little bit pear-shaped. Obviously, there was we didn't play probably to our best or anywhere close to that. But look, I'm not too concerned about that going into finals. I think we've found out a few things with Richmond if we do happen to play them again in the finals. But look, we had a lot of players that were down who didn't probably play as well as they did as they played over the year. But the concern, I don't think I'm that concerned about it. It was disappointing to see a big game, Friday night game against a really good team that we come up short. But I'm with a lot of other people saying that it wasn't such a bad loss. It was maybe just a nice little wake up just before the finals. It
was a little reminder, I suppose, Scotty, that as much as we've been, Port Adelaide and Brisbane have held the 1-2 positions. Geelong, I had them as Premiership favourites. A lot of other people did. Just a little reminder that the Tigers are still the champs, and they've had all sorts of turmoil going on. They have won 2 premierships out of the last 3 years, and they just gave a little reality check to everybody that, hey, we're still here. We're still a very good football team.
I did raise this last week, and you howled me down, Cameron, about a loss might be a good thing. But what I'm concerned about, I get, there'll be people coming back, I understand the loss, but is Richmond in their heads a bit? The way they started, the timid start, it just, every time against Richmond, it's almost like they're fearful of the way Richmond play, and they just go into this shell because those first 3 quarters weren't the Geelong we'd been watching for 2 months.
Yeah, hard to say whether they're in their head. No, you're right about the first 3 quarters. But I go back to the preliminary final of last year. The first half.
Yeah, I know. We dominated.
It wasn't timid play. I don't know what Friday night was. It was. I was as frustrated as you, Scotty, just watching it thinking, hang on a second. This is Geelong of round 2 or 3 this year where we were all crying, too slow, too safe, too timid with the ball use. What happened to that shift to some dare and some brave ball use combined with the controlled tempo ball use when they felt the time was right? There was no composure. I mean, it's as bad as I've seen Paddy Dangerfield and Mitch Duncan and these magnificent players play for a long, long time. They won't play that bad again, though. I believe that whatever happened Friday night, it was ugly and it was awful. But I think some learnings can come out of it in a hurry, and it might have been just, as Stokesy said, a little smack in the face going, hey, just the way you played the week before against the Bombers isn't the way you're going to get it every single week against the good teams. They were walking out of stoppages against the Bombers. You're not going to do that in the finals. So, maybe I'm looking for the glass half full response here, Scotty. Yeah. Maybe it was a good thing.
As long as they're not spooked. I mean, that's the only thing. If they can just wipe it off the slate. And this group hasn't convinced me they can move on very quickly sometimes. But I didn't understand. I mean, it was a free hit. Richmond had to win more than Geelong. This was sort of just an exercise in let's have a bit of, not fun, but have a crack at it. And instead it was like, let's defend the fort, limit the damage, and then see if we can win it. It baffled me.
Stokesy, what did you see from Richmond that in your prep, you're preparing for whichever final that they hopefully and may meet again? What did you see that scares you? And what did you see that you think the Cats could exploit next time?
There was 2 parts of the game that I reckon that Richmond playing really well for us was that they were able to, or they allowed our defenders to keep kicking backwards. So what they did was defend our forward entries on that fast and that, exciting play that we can run and carry and run and dash and get into the forward line deep for Hawkey to have one-on-ones. So what they were able to do, and not having a go at the back line here, but they were just stacking up. The stats were going up because they would just keep kicking backwards. And we kept going backwards and backwards, and it was able to then be able to, Richmond were able to set up the fence pretty well. And then we just waited for us to turn it over. I think that was probably one of the biggest things, glaring things that I saw in the game was Richmond just sort of waited for us to make a mistake with the way that we'll have the ball. Probably the second thing is how much they play for each other with their handballs. So if you're running directly inside forward 50, the first initial thing is to get another player into the game without giving another handball just to the bloke next to him. And then the confidence of each player gets up because they've got their hands on the footy, where we were sort of tend to get the footy, we'd look forward and we'd kick it. We wouldn't try and bring our other teammates into the game. And I think that was probably the two things I saw really loud and clear watching the game on Friday night.
What happened next time, Cameron, is the first game I won't play Dylan Grimes. That's the first thing that won't happen.
No, and Grimes and Floston just dominated.
Grimes said, "Who are you? I've never heard of you, and I won't go near you. I'll go and play on Tom Hawkins 2-on-1."
I wonder, maybe I'm searching for positivity coming out of this. Did we leave something up our sleeve with our forward structure? I couldn't believe all night that we allowed Grimes to come off, that Floston came off, because we played. Yeah. I know it was the first gamer, Ben Jarvis, and congratulations to him on his debut. But you're right, they came off him. But also, we played. It felt like we sent an extra number up to the ball, which allowed them to come off as well. And then Curvis did it a few times. Do we play 6 forwards at home next time we play them? So to never allow that weapon of theirs with. Because if Grimes gets shut down, Floston will just start doing it.
Yeah, but if Grimes is on Gary Rowan, he won't be, lagging off him as much, obviously.
He'll still do it. He did it in the prelim.
Yeah, but Rowan has shown in recent weeks he gets up and about and he's figured out a way that Tom Hawkins Island has been working. He's been crucial to that thing working.
But any Geelong forward who thinks, I'm going to lead and get a lace-out perfect kick against Richmond is probably kidding themselves a little bit, because their pressure around the ball is so elite. They force a hurried kick, and it's generally just up a little bit higher, a little bit to the safety of a pack and numbers. And if you've already led and you're out of position, Stokes, you'd know this perfectly. You lead on the wrong opponent who just says, I'll let you go because this ball's coming long and high. I'm just going to sit there and mark it. Stokes, is that fair that maybe the forwards have to stay at home a little bit more and just be a representation, so that instead of that ball going long and high to 2v3 and 3 Richmond, it's 3v3 and it comes to ground?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a lot of commentary around Benny Jarvis about, he was out of his depth. The poor kid, he's just played his first game. Congratulations, Benny. You're a good kid. I've loved watching him play in the trial games or the scratch matches where they are. And to play against Richmond, and like you said, against some really experienced defenders, would have been a tough initiation into AFL footy. But I think any guy that's been around, Luke Darehouse and Gary Rowland and Gary Ablett, what they won't do would be get stuck to the footy. They won't keep going when they're out of position, and they'll know to get back to get the Hawkey, because the best thing about Hawkey is that if he doesn't mark it, he's going to create a contest. So the ball's going to hit, within 5 or 10 metre radius of where the contest is. So if you can get to an even number there, at least you're going to give a chance to be able to keep him to your forline, which what we weren't able to do on the weekend or on Friday. The ball just went out really quickly because the outnumber was too extreme.
The Tigers do it beautifully, and good teams do it. And I know we do it as well. They seal off. So Bolter versus Hawkins, 1-on-1, good strong player, will just take a position, and Hawk's fighting to get that position and bring the ball to ground against Bolter. But it's almost like he's been sealed off a little bit, which allows a Floston or Grimes to come across and take that mark. They are outstanding at it. Someone has to be home and flying with that person, with Grimes, for instance, and then it comes to ground. So it's almost like Tom and someone else brings it to ground against Richmond, and then you go to work. What else did you see, Scotty? Anything that Asava, I thought, was a positive from the game. Does he play ruck again this week?
Yeah, he started grabbing everything, kicked 2 goals in a couple of minutes. Look, I've always been a Sava man, so I'm in his camp 100%. So they've always sort of this season tried to think he was a ruckman before a forward, and if that's where they're going, Reece has been serviceable. He's had some good games, but he's injured again. I think you play a Sava in the ruck this week and go, all right, this is our dress rehearsal in a sense. If you are it, tell him. Say, mate, we want you to be number 1. Let's go and do it. Show us what you got, sort of old style coaching.
So Asava possibly stays and Reece sits. We'll see if that happens. The skipper comes back this week, doesn't he? He just got to get the game into him.
He has to play. I gather he's been close, and the coach keeps saying we're holding him back, but I think it's time to precaution out the window, surely.
Gaz comes back straight away just to see how we can cope with it.
Again, has to play, in my opinion, definitely.
And what about Gary Rowan?
Poor old Ben Jarvis, yeah, he has to play as well. So there's 3 ins, and that's the best team right there. Either Sav or Stanley, in my opinion.
So as we have to do, Scotland, the football department always hits us with this. You guys just want to keep bringing players in all the time, and I'm always calling for Chuka Constable. Someone's got to go out when someone comes in. Ben Jarvis, unfortunately, probably does make way. A great little taste and reward for his hard work, and he'll look to build and have a bigger year next year.
Fogarty, who's been impressive, he'll have to go out to Selwood. And then it's a close Atkins discussion. Who do you go with for a Gaza?
Who do you go with, Scotland?
And you put it all on me. Look, I think their gut feel is Atkins, because he's been there longer, has more credits. I think they're very similar. Atkins went in the middle a lot on the weekend. I've loved Close, just the little things he does, but I think the kid's probably going to have to give way to the greatest player of all time, possibly.
And I got one more to throw at you. And I'll throw this one to you, Mathew, because you don't have to drop one for this one. Just interested on your take in whether he does play this week, whether he plays first final. Your boy, Jack Stephen. Does he come in?
Oh, look, it's going to be really hard to try and mount a case for Jackie Boy to come in. Because you look at over the group, the 18 and the 4 on the bench, it's hard to fit him in. But what I think we lack, and I've spoke about it all year, is that run and carry and that just that X factor. And he hasn't been able to show us a lot of it this year. Obviously, been an interrupted year for him, but I just think that with his experience, with his different approach to playing football, we have all so similar types in our footy team at the moment. We need someone that's got a little bit of spunk and can create a little bit of run and carry, or just try and take on or balk a couple of players. I just think that we've got a very similar makeup to our players that we have, definitely through the midfield. Gaz brings us that bit of, godlike creation where he can create something out of nothing. But apart from that, I really look at the rest of our group, and it's a very similar base of what they can bring to the table. So I'd bring him in, but then again, who would you take out? And it'd be a pretty unfair conclusion to bring someone out after the year that a lot of the players have had.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit with you. I think it's difficult to bring him back. And I also think it's difficult to bring him back when you're talking, not risk, but there is an element of seeing how bodies hold up with Gary Rowan. He does have an injury history. With Joel. And Joel will be fine. I know that. I get that. But just there's this nagging 1% of me that says, well, hang on, why has he been held back a month? What is he okay? Well, to then also put Jack Stephen in, who I know Jack was getting fitter and fitter and fitter, but he's also one of the older boys as well. And I don't think going in all just bringing back a heap of older boys is necessarily the best thing for the team. So be an interesting selection for this week. The Swans on Sunday. Now, I know the Cats should comfortably beat the Swans. The Swans are competitive, and they've
been playing well for a young team.
Yeah, they never give up. If everything went to plan, favourites win. it looks as though the Cats will finish fourth, with the Port finishing top, Brisbane second, Tigers third, Cats fourth, West Coast fifth, Collingwood sixth, and then there's obviously the big battle for seventh and eighth. Saints taking on the Giants Friday night.
Dogs will make it. Dogs will make it. Dogs are flying.
Your boy Ian Norton will just dominate Scotland.
Again, another one, yes.
It would lead to the Cats playing Port Adelaide in Adelaide in the first final.
Wow.
Don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Anything else you'd like to add, Scotland?
No. So you're happy to go to Adelaide, 30,000 fans, excitement.
Well, you want to play in front of fans. You want to.
No, I agree with that.
It's finals. It's exciting. I think they feel okay against Port Adelaide. I think they feel they match up well okay.
There. Yeah.
They don't mind the Adelaide Oval. So anyway, they've got to win first. We're going to take a break. I do want to take a break, and I want to get to some of the fan questions. We don't have a guest this week. We apologise for that because the players are hard at work in the hub. They've been reunited with the families and everyone else who arrived.
Second wave.
The second wave, yes. Don't use that term. It's Gaz is back. I did see a photo of Corey Enright giving Gaz a hug at training. Just good to see. And supposedly Gaz in good nick, fit and ready to go. Keen to get. I think Andrew Mackey might have done a good job with him.
Mac, the genius, the saviour.
I'm as shocked by it as everyone. I thought Mac would be just coffees and leaning on the fence chatting, but he's obviously worked him hard. Well done, Andrew. Before we do take a break, it's important to stay healthy while staying at home. That's why GMHBA have partnered with Keyser. If you're a GMHBA member with extras cover, you can access telehealth or in-centre physio from the team at Keyser with no out-of-pocket expenses up to your annual limits until September 30. Waiting periods and sub-limits apply. Search GMHBA Keyser for details and stay healthier at home. Questions coming up in a second. Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on To the Final Bell, brought to you by Panther Tyres. We've been talking Friday night's game. Not a great result, but we are looking forward and we are being positive. Finals are nearly here. This would be, what are we at now? The 16th of October. That's semi-final weekend, I reckon, normally. Very exciting time of the year, but we are building towards these new finals, the new final schedule. In a couple of weeks' time. Before we do get to the question, digital is in Deakin University's DNA with 40 years of experience in distance and online learning. Discover why they're the #1 Australian public university for overall educational experience. Premium, proven, loved. Study online at Deakin. It would be semi-final weekend, as I said, but it is round 18. There is a bye week to get through, which I don't love the idea of the bye week. And then the first final, the qualifying final, we think it might be the Cats taking on Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval in the first final. Pat asked the question, similar to what we were discussing a little bit earlier, is Rowan, as in Gary Rowan, more important to our forward structure than we've realised?
I think that's a fair call. I mean, he's been in very good form. He has to do it in finals. We all know that. But, I mean, we saw when he's not there, and it's not, Ben Jarvis's fault, but when he's not there, things didn't quite go according to plan. So I think him and Hawkins, the way they're operating, he's a crucial part to that.
I like the idea of Rowan. I mean, clearly, Rowan in the team. I've said it all year, Dangerfield forward more often than not, because players have to play on Rowan and they have to play on Dangerfield, and it leaves Hawkins one out, or it leaves Rowan one out, which they did against the Bulldogs on Ryan Gardner, or it leaves Dangerfield one out. You can't come off those guys. So, yeah, I agree. Mitchell's question, could the harsh loss to Richmond be exactly what the team needs to go all the way? Mitchell, hopefully we've answered that in the first segment a little bit. I think and Stokes, he was with me, not a bad thing. I'm not saying you have to have a loss, Scotland, after last week.
Last week you were. You've changed your tune, Cameron.
But I'm going to take some positives. I raise a
very good point. I present it because I'm always ahead of the game. I see things before other people. And you just held it down. Said, that is ridiculous. No one needs to have a loss to remind.
I'm saying you don't have to have a loss when you are pushing your own standards high enough.
All right, we're going to rewind the tape for our listeners.
I did read the great Cameron Mooney. He always writes some brilliant stuff and has really insightful stuff. Moons, love what he's doing in the media at the moment. Talking about 07, the Port Adelaide loss, 09, the Bulldogs loss just before the end of the season, and 11, the loss to the Sydney Swans, I think it was, Stokesy.
It was.
Just sharpened up the group, and Moons spoke about it. But
Is this all I raised last week?
I'm not
Am I
saying you
missing
have
something?
to have it. No, you said you have to have it.
I've missed something here, Cameron. I must have been somewhere else last week.
I love the work Moons is doing, Stokesy. He's brilliant. He's very honest with what he talks about, but obviously understands the intricacies of a really strong United playing group. And he's brilliant. His work on Fox Footy and in the newspaper and on the radio too. So hopefully Moons continues to do that for a long, long time. It is great to hear ex-players who actually have an insight into the game and get it and understand it, rather than just trying to create clickbait and headlines.
What are you trying to say here, Cameron?
No,
Come on, Cameron.
There's just some who go down that path. I love what Moons is doing. So keep up the great work, Moons. You are a legend, buddy. Omar asks, is Gazza in good shape? As we said before, I've heard in excellent shape, Mathew.
Omar? There was a photo of him with his shirt off by the pool the other day. Now, I'm not saying that he looks like Mark Blitzers, where you can see his ribs and he's got an 8-pack, but he looks very good.
Wow.
He looks in a very good shape. So, I mean, he's a professional. He's obviously been around for a long, long time. He understands more than anyone that this is his last chance to go out with a bang and be able to get that flag back in. I think that would just finish off his career nicely. So I think he knows more than anyone that the responsibility that he holds to this group as well, being that, someone in the forward line that can create something out of nothing. So I have full faith that he'd get himself in the best possible shape to come back to the group.
Stokesy, you know what it's like when you know you're fit and you're looking good and you're feeling good. You do feel good about yourself. Middle of pre-season, middle of January, like you just feel good.
Yeah.
And you know you're looking okay. Gaz never takes his top off. Ever takes his top off.
No.
And for him to strip down and get the rig out, I think Gaz deep down inside would be thinking, yeah, I'm looking good. I'm fit at the moment. I'm feeling good about this. So the little master might just unleash one more month. Of something special.
We need a month. That's all we need.
Thanks for that question, Omar. Brody asks, why aren't Narkle or Clark, Quentin Narkle, Jordan Clark, getting a game? Stokesy?
Look, I think I really do want to fight for Narks, and he should be in the team. I do believe he gives us a little bit of something different, like I've spoken about 100 times on this podcast. But it's, who do you take out? I mean, we've got Menegola and Guthrie who are playing unbelievable football, who might in the past have been on the verges of maybe playing or not playing if people were able to push them out. But there's no way even Joel Selwood pushes them out at the moment. They're playing that well. You got Mitch Duncan in there. Clarkey, I think he probably could find a place in the back line. But, you'll get Busey and Tom Stewart and the Shark. Who did he take out? I mean, this team is stacked with talent. So I don't think this is a bad thing for Clarkey. I think this is a reality of AFL footy that you have to work for every game. We've never been a club that hands out games, I don't think. I'd like to think we don't. So I don't think it's a bad thing for Clarkey. With Narks, he's coming out of contract as well. So obviously there's a lot of play out here where he wants to be able to, put his foot forward for a new contract. So, it's disappointing not to see him play as many games as he probably would have liked. But in the scheme of things, it's more about how the team's going.
Excellent little segue to some contracts here. The last question, Stacey, and there's a greater discussion for a couple of names I'm going to throw around. But Archie asks, are we actually trying to get Joe Danaher? Scotland, I've heard Geelong linked to Brad Crouch, to Luke Bruce, to Joe Danaher.
Probably
Viney, yes, thank you, Stokesy. Yeah. Probably 27 other free agents. Are we really trying to get Joe Danaher?
I find that very hard to believe. Joe's big play about getting out of Essendon is lifestyle, getaway, new, fresh start. moving to Geelong. I know we sell that a bit to some players, but I don't think that's quite the same. I think he'll go to Sydney. And I mean, financially, I know we've been very good at underpaying our superstars, but can we fit in a 700-800 forward to go alongside Tomahawk? I mean, look, if he wanted to come, yes, I find it very hard to believe that it would happen.
Hang on. Did you say we underpay our superstars?
Compared to other clubs, like, Danger and all these guys would be over $1 million. They're not here. Compared to what other clubs pay, lopsided and get their salary caps out of whack, i.e. the GWS and these clubs. Geelong's never done that. You know that. You blokes should have been on double Stoker.
I don't think we've ever underpaid our superstars. I think we've underpaid our players from 5 to 15.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
I think, Joe, if there's one player that would fit into the and at Eston, he was probably my favourite player there, and we kicked about a fair bit. If there's one person that would fit into the Bowen Heads or the Lawn or the Anglesey, Joey Danaher. I mean, he's a hippie at heart. He walks around barefoot. He loves a dart. He doesn't tell me anything about that. So, he fits in the Chappie and Stevie J mould. I think he'd fit in perfectly. But, I mean, where's our list out you got to look at? With all those players, they're all pretty old. So if you're coming out of contract and lists are being squeezed even tighter next year, then, is it smart for us to be going after 29 to 32-year-olds? I don't think that would fit our bill. But, look, Wellesley's a genius and, we've been able to compete. But there's something that you have to look at a little bit closer to, and that's our core group, and that being the next group that take us on to, winning a flag. So, yeah, that's...
Joe Danaher, at his best, love him, fantastic. And you pay him $700,000 a year, key forward, he takes over from Hawke, fantastic, everything's roses. But you have to look at his body too. And you have to say, okay, if I'm going to pay $700,000 to $800,000 for him, it could be more, who knows? And I'm not guaranteed to get lots of games and continuity and everything like that. Well, it's a huge risk. It's a massive risk. I'd love him at his best, and I'd love his personality. I agree with you, Stokes. I find him a really top quality club person. But there is the risk there. So all those other names get thrown around. I want to ask about one more. Can I ask about the contract bit first, and then I'll get to the hopefully exciting news for him, but obviously not as part of the Geelong hub. Nakia Cockatoo, name we always bring up. I read today, we are recording this on a Wednesday, I read today that, Scotty, he's going to the Brisbane Lions.
Well, sadly, Ling McCarthy has created a precedent where injury-prone Geelong players go up there and just find the secret medicine.
But hang on, so when an article like this gets written, he's going to be at the Brisbane Lions. How much of that is guesswork and how much of that is just rock solid?
I would have thought, I haven't seen it, but I would have thought the journalist has spoken to his manager or Brisbane, who have confirmed they've offered him a multi-year deal, whereas Geelong, and rightfully so, given how much they've supported him, have probably said, we'll only give you a year to year until you get up and going again. So I think that's what would have happened. A multi-year deal compared to a one-year deal at Geelong, change of scenery. I mean, you can see the obvious sell for Nakia, and I'm sure he doesn't want to go, but sometimes we all know that. We saw with McCarthy, it happens. You go north, your body somehow heals itself, and he plays.
Stokesy, he's back from the hub, I believe, back to get wrist surgery on his wrist. Yeah. But obviously the more exciting news, pending birth of his first child. What's your take?
Look, it's hard for me to comment on this because I love Cocky and what he could bring to our football club and our playing group and the kid that he is. But I do think maybe it is time for him to maybe have a change. Grace, they're due at the end of this month. He's got his body to look after, but also his family. I mean, if you can get 2 years security somewhere else, and I don't know what Geelong's offered him, but if you can get the security of the next 2 years with your, family on the way, sometimes you've got to look after yourself. And I don't think I think it'd be, the club's done all they could for him. And his body's probably just let him down one or too many times. But, he's a great kid. I do hope that the club sticks fat with him. But I could see why going north for a longer deal would be enticing for Cocky.
And you're right. I probably wouldn't begrudge him either because, part of me says the Geelong's stuck with him, so go another year. But you're right. If at the end of next year his career's over, versus get 2, maybe 3 years, and he gets a chance to show it, not as rushed, and he gets back and he extends his career, you can't blame him for that. No. It'll be a massive blow to the footy club, though. He's one of the few top 10 draft picks the Cats have had access to in a long, long time. And because of injury, not so much no talent, they won't have nailed this draft pick. And that's a huge blow. And I would say, Scotty, given his history, the Cats wouldn't get a lot in return for him, would they?
No, that's the problem. I mean, it'd be a trade, but you couldn't command on potential too much more than, third round pick or something like that, which is ridiculous because of the talent the kid's got. But as you mentioned before, list shrinking, that's just going to be the way these things happen.
A top 10 draft pick is crucial to make sure they get right. So going forward, I think
three, haven't we?
First rounders?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's going to be a huge draft. And as we know, one of the toughest drafts to pick because there's been not much, no NAB League footy or maybe one game, no APS footy, and obviously the Sample and the Waffle.
Yeah, they've been interstate playing, but they follow these kids from when they're 15 and that, but you're right. The Marcus Bontempelli Bolter and a few of them aren't happening this year.
No, true. Before we go, just quickly finish up. The retirements are starting to roll in at the moment. Bryce Gibbs, chaired off the ground by his team.
Apparently that was the wrong thing to do, Cameron.
Yeah. Cade Simpson, what a wonderful career Simo's had.
You would have played on him, Stokesy, at some stage?
Yeah, look, he was always good for a little bit of a laugh and a little bit of lip out there. And I was never one to stay quiet out there either. So I had some run-ins with Simo. You just think that he's for someone smaller than me on the footy field, it's a surprise. And you sort of take him for granted because you just go, well, he's not that big and he's maybe not as skillful, as quick as everyone else. But then you just see some of the things he do week in, week out, and you have the utmost respect for him. So from afar, I love watching Simo play, and to get everything that he got out of his body is a tremendous, absolute respect for the man himself. It's an incredible career.
Matty Cruz as well for the Blues, hanging up the boots. I wonder, will we see the great Eduardo hang up the boots? Stokesy, Eddie Betts. It'd be interesting to watch whether or not he goes on next year. I'd love to see him play again next year. I still reckon. I know he's older, Scotty. I get that. And he's not going to be challenging for the Coleman medal next year like he was in
doesn't have to
seasons. But good luck to an opposition team who says, we're just going to put our 6th best defender on Eddie Betts. You're still you might not be putting your first, but you're still putting your 2nd best defender on him. And he demands that.
Sometimes a small forward, actually, I don't see many small forward coaches out there at Clubland. And one of the best positions or the most dangerous position is a small forward role. How to be dangerous, but also how to put pressure on. So I would love to be able to see a club go with Eddie Betts and say, look, we're going to play you, but you're going to be more of a coach this year. And, you'll play your odd games and train with the group. But training and teaching the skill of being a small forward is something that's, I think, lacks and misses from our game. And I think Eddie could bring a hell of a lot to that because he's obviously probably one of the greatest small forwards of all time.
Yes, well said. Tommy Bell-Chambers hung him up for the Bombers. Pierce Hanley hung up the boots. And the 2 3-time Premiership players for the Hawks, Paul Puopolo and Ben Stratton. Sean Burgoyne signed a new 1-year contract extension. He could become one of only, and do my quick
400,
the fourth player, Scotty? Yeah. 4th player to play 400 games, which would be remarkable for Sean Burgoyne. What a player he was and is. So hopefully that happens. Anything else, Scotty? Have I forgotten any news or anything like that? Or,
Well, I had a bad start to my NFL fantasies. I'm a bit down this week. That's probably been the biggest thing this week for me.
I beat Andrew Mackey, and just for the NFL fans out there, Sammy Watkins plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. First game was Thursday night football over there, Friday morning for us. Sort of snuck up on a few people who weren't concentrating. Andrew had bigger things on his mind. Forgot to set his team by that game. Sammy Watkins dominated, scored a heap of points. Then he set his team. I ended up beating Andrew by 3 points. Watkins playing would have won him the game. So I am very, very happy right now.
One more question for me, though, before I go. Where the hell's Diggsy? I mean, we pumped this bloke up.
And he got married, allegedly.
He's on a honeymoon, and now he's too busy for us. So, Diggsy, where the hell?
We need you. It's finals time. Get on board, Diggsy.
Come on, Diggsy. We'll just talk NFL with him the whole time, though. I think our listeners will get a little bit annoyed by us if we just chatted NFL. We better go. Stokesy, you're a busy man. Thank you so much for your time. Scotland, always a pleasure chatting to you. The Cats take on the Swans Sunday afternoon, 3:35 p.m. I have no idea where that game is, but it'll be on your TV, so watch that. Do you know where it is?
Stand by, Cameron. Stand by. It is at
Metricon. Thank you very much, Tommy Peters.
Great man.
Sometimes he's got to be fed this information. The Cats, if they win that, they more than likely will finish fourth on the ladder and take on Port Adelaide. We will be back next week. Stay safe. The regional Victorians, enjoy a little bit of freedom. Enjoy getting out, but still do the right thing. Let's get over this and finish it all up nicely. Do the right thing, but enjoy your freedom. We'll be back next week.